Hey y'all, and welcome back. Today we are going to react to yet another slapped hand video. He's got tons out, by the way. We got another video though. It's called Mysterious Things Caught on Camera That Will Creep You Out. So without further ado, let's get started.
A seemingly ordinary photo taken in the summer of 2011 has sparked widespread curiosity and speculation after being shared to the Ghosts Caught on Camera Facebook page. Captured on a rural property in western Oregon, the image shows a group of young girls standing by a creek. But with one chilling twist, a ghostly-looking girl appears in the photo, who was supposedly never there. According to the original poster, Tammy Brenneman Vick, the photo was taken with an early model iPhone while spending time at her grandparents' remote property. Only a few people were present that day: herself, her friend, the mother of two of the girls in the shot, and her 7-year-old son, who declined to be in the picture. But when she later sent the photo to her friend via text, the response was instant. "Who the heck is that?" The confusion centered on a pale-looking girl standing near a tree on the top left of the image. Her greyish skin tone, unnaturally dark eyes, and the faint, faded quality of her appearance immediately stood out, especially in contrast to the other clearly defined children. But no one present that day remembers another girl being there. In fact, the poster is adamant. The girl on the top left wasn't physically there with us. We have no clue who she is. Adding to the eerie backstory, the poster explains that the property has always carried a certain mystery. While there's no known history of tragedy, she and her sister, who both spent much of their childhood on the land, have shared strikingly similar recurring nightmares about certain areas of the property. To complicate matters further, the family's first home on the land was destroyed in a freak electrical fire just a few years after being built in the 1970s. Speculation has arisen that the girl might be the spirit of a drowning victim, as the child in question is standing near the deepest part of the creek. Whether or not the mysterious girl is truly a ghost remains up for debate, but for the families involved and the growing number of people viewing the image, her unexplained presence is as haunting as it is unforgettable.
Okay, so let me get this one straight. The story on this one, unless it's just me, the story on this one was getting a little convoluted. So, first he talked about a fire in the 1970s on the first home. Yet there was no tragedies that's done happen on this plot of land. So, but we diverged from the fire in the 70s, right? From the house that was first there to the girl being a possible drowning victim in the deepest part of the pool of the creek. First off, the girl in the forefront is in the deepest part of the creek because she was up to her shins in it. This other girl is actually a lot taller and is actually on the embankment and in shadow. So he's talking about the grayness and everything of it. She's just dappled in the leaves shadow. As y'all can see, there's a bit of like sunlight also coming through. It's a bit dappled. Yeah, she looks a little bit paler than the other ones, but she looks like she's there. They look like they were actually, like, especially the little girl with the white shirt that's actually closest to her, like right in front of her. She actually looks as if she knows that she's there. That's the thing, because the way her placement of her body is within the picture suggests to me that she was making room for the other person to hug up against the tree as well. So I'm a little confused with this whole thing, just simply because he talked about no tragedies on the property whatsoever, but we had a fire of the first original house, which in my opinion, that's tragedy enough, because you done lost everything. In an electrical fire, you done lost everything. Maybe nobody was hurt in that fire, but you lost property. You had property damage. So I think in some way or form, that would be a personal tragedy in a sense that you have to start from ground zero and work your way back up. But anyway, that's besides the point. But the other one where he talked about this as a possibility of a drowning victim, how is this not a tragedy in itself, and why wouldn't people know about it? Because if the family had been there since the 70s, then they would personally know about a tragedy that would have occurred. Case in point, if you do go back to the photo and you take a look at this supposed ghost girl's hair, the hairstyle is a somewhat modern to date hairstyle, meaning it's not from the 50s or 60s. Even the outfit, she looks like you could see very small part of the outfit that she's wearing, and it does look quasi up to date. So I'm calling a fake on this. I mean, I can sit there all day and take pictures with any of y'all out there listening to me talk about this, and then I can sit there and say, oh no, nobody else was with me in this picture. You see what I mean? I need more context. I need a little bit more for this one. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I need a little bit more with this, because to me it just looks like they were just trying to throw out any old picture and suggest that there was a ghost in it. All right, let's move on to the next before I start going down and rambling on this one again.
Photo posted to the Creepy Facts Facebook page has left viewers rattled after what appears to be a mysterious extra child showed up beside a young girl, despite no one else being present when the image was taken. According to the original poster, the photo was captured by her mother using a standard phone camera. "My mum took this picture," she wrote. "My daughter is the one on the right. There was absolutely no one else there when she took the photo, yet somehow another figure appears beside her." The post quickly gathered attention, with many viewers unsettled by the strange presence. One commenter suggested the image might show a ghost, while another posed a chilling theory. I'm wondering if this child had a twin at birth that maybe didn't make it. Skeptics, of course, have offered possible explanations ranging from motion blur to image artifacts, or even a simple trick of shadow and light. But most agree that the image doesn't appear to be intentionally manipulated. We'll throw this one over to you, the viewer, for final judgment. What do you think? Camera glitch or a ghost caught on camera? Let me know down below.
Now, this one intrigues me. Just the simple fact that the comment that the person made about, did the person have a twin when they were born that didn't make it, does sound really plausible with it. Just a simple fact. We're going to just go for the simple fact that maybe this wasn't altered and that this is a legitimate one, right? So, the hair colors of the girls and the actual setup of the texture of the hair and everything is very similar to one another, and so that does kind of ring the bell, a little bit with it. This one here, though, I'm gonna go back to the total picture in general. It's a standard cell phone. I mean, I haven't seen too much dealings with anything like possibility of double exposure or anything. That's more dealing with 35mm cameras with the film and everything like that, which would make sense. If this was a 35mm camera, I would just suggest that this is a double exposure or something, because you don't see another shadow with the girl to the left. You only see the ones to the right? So that right there kind of threw me for a loop, because it is a interesting part to point out in this particular photo. My questions would be, is it a burn image? But then again, that would only be shown if it was a picture taken of the picture through that screen, meaning I showed you my phone and the picture, and then you took the picture of it, then you would be able to see the burn image or something that's on the screen for this being a standard cell phone. I'd like to know personally, I need a little bit more context of like when this picture was actually taken. Was it taken in the early 2000s, like the other one was suggesting, like 2011? Or was it taken more recently? So we can determine what standard cell phone is with these pictures. I mean, if it was something at the beginning with like flip phones and how they were set up back in the day, then this could easily happen closer to more like a double exposure type situation for that type of setting, because some of the technology wasn't there. But if this is a more modern phone, then I could say and suggest the possibility that she did catch something paranormal. But other than that, without the full information on when it was taken, what type of phone, just not standard cell phone as the description, then I can be able to do this a little bit more on this one. But other than that, right now it's a very plausible case with this one. All right, let's move on.
All right, you really have a tape of a ghost?
Yes, I do.
Reddit user Available Time 7293 has reignited interest in one of radio's most eerie moments by sharing a spine-tingling audio clip from the legendary program Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM.
Now that is creepy. That is really creepy.
Isn't it? It just makes the hair stand up, you know. I'm used to it now, but it used to just make my hair.
The clip, which features a caller recounting her family's terrifying experiences in a haunted house, ends with what she claims is the actual voice of a ghost, caught on tape.
But I'm going to.
Oh, you mean there's a voice?
It's a voice.
All right.
He left this voice message on the tape.
In the call, the woman explains that the events took place about 10 years prior in Oroville, California. At the time, her young daughter had been playing with a small tape recorder with a friend, creating stories and recording them for fun. But when they went to play one of the tapes back, they discovered something disturbing, an unfamiliar voice at the very start of the tape before the girl's recording even began.
Diana?
The voice, which appears on the unmagnetized lead-in section of the cassette, seems to say, "I wish we were together."
He says, "I wish we were together."
Oh, all right, play it again.
The woman describes playing it over and over again in disbelief, growing increasingly frightened as strange activity began escalating in the house. After the voice was discovered, the caller claims the house became increasingly active. Her son's bed was allegedly dragged several feet across the floor with him still in it. Her waterbed would churn as though something was moving inside it. An exercise bike would turn on by itself. The family also reported loud knocks, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent, echoing through the home. One particularly vivid account includes the family's cat reacting to knocks on a cupboard. When the woman knocked back, she says the unseen force knocked back real hard, slamming the cabinet. Eventually, the family learned from a neighbour that a murder-suicide had occurred in the house years earlier, possibly in one of the bathrooms. This revelation gave context to the intense feeling of being watched and the caller's long-held discomfort with one bathroom in particular. "I never used it," she said. "I always felt something else there." Even veteran paranormal broadcaster Art Bell was unnerved. After hearing the audio, Bell admitted it gave him chills, noting how familiar he was with strange knocks and crashes in his own home studio. The voice, low and emotional, struck both host and listeners as deeply unsettling.
Felt something else there.
I hear you. Now that is creepy. That is really creepy.
Isn't it? It just makes the hair stand up, you know. I'm used to it now, but it used to just make my hair stand
Well, I'm not. So play it one last time. Hit it one last time. I want to listen very carefully.
Bell asked the caller to play the audio clip again and again. Each time, the phrase, "I wish we were together," became more clear. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, this recording, combined with the family's detailed account and the home's grim backstory, makes for a gripping paranormal case. Was it a spirit trapped in the location, a residual echo from a tragic past, or something else entirely? You can listen for yourself and decide, is this genuine evidence of the afterlife or just a chilling coincidence caught on tape?
He says, I wish we were together.
Oh, all right, play it again.
All right, y'all. I want to go through this one two ways. I want to go in an explanation of, first off, if this is real, and second of all, if this is fabricated, right? So, for the real column, I know there's a lot of times that paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, as a lot of people call them, will go through and use recordings and things like that. It's called electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. So basically we could use a recorder to go through and catch sounds that otherwise wouldn't be heard to the regular human ear. So, I mean, in that sense, that can make a great argument right there. Little girls, they playing with a little recorder, doing little stories, whatever they're doing. So, them being able to catch that at the beginning of the tape suggests that before they even started, that somebody was communicating with them. So then they wouldn't have been able to hear it with their ears, but when you do the playback on the audio recording itself, then that's where they'll be able to hear it. I've personally had a situation where I've heard something like that before. I mean, that tape and everything is gone since then, but I have personally had a situation like this before. So, that's why I'm playing both sides of the field on this, because this could happen. I mean, I have listened to Art Bell's Coast to Coast AM personally. I've listened to podcasts and things like that are done by Art Bell. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. Then there's some stuff that's pretty fringe, So I can take this with a grain of salt, a lot of the stuff that does go on his podcast and everything. But, I can go for this being true. But next I'm going to say how we could sit there and forge this thing out. Okay, so how we're going to do the forgery now is that they suggested that it was on the unmagnetized segment of the cassette tape. So you can record on the unmagnetized set, that little segment just at the very, very beginning of any cassette tape. Any of y'all old enough to remember cassette tapes will know what I'm talking about. It's a little strip where you hear nothing but silence, then the music starts up. So anyway, the unmagnetized segment of a tape cassette generally is not recorded on. And the reason why is because it will degrade over time and distort. So you sit there and record on the unmagnetized section. You can sit there, great sound quality to begin with, but as the time goes by and you record more and more on this cassette tape, it will distort and degrade the voice to the point of how the quote unquote ghost voice sounded on the cassette recording. It would slow it down and distort it and warp it to the point of you don't know who the hell is talking. It could be somebody talking like me, and then next thing you know, it's going to end up sounding like that ghost. as I know I didn't touch into the murder-suicide part of the household, that it happens, unfortunately. But that, it can play a part in it. But I'd like to know for a fact, how long have they been living in the house, and how long did they notice certain things happening around the house that ain't normal? So, I mean, if it just all of a sudden started happening after hearing the voice recording on the girl's recording device, then, that is a bit strange to me. It sounds like sounds like more of a innate, animalistic part of your brain going on. You hear a voice that you don't recognize, and it never should have been on the tape to begin with, and your brain and everything surrounding it starts, I don't know, the energy that's given off, you're paranoid, because like, how on earth did this happen? You keep on listening to it, trying to figure out what's going on. Your brain and your body itself will start going into that paranoia, and any old house settling thing can end up being magnified for you to the point of you think you're having a haunting. As for the cat and the cabinet, if we're going here with this whole thing was just something that just like randomly happened, meaning that the girls were playing around with that tape and just recording over and over and over and over again, which this does happen, especially back 80s, 90s. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how many times I used one cassette to create a mixtape, or one cassette. I find one song on the radio I wanted to record, and then I'd have to wait. Then I find another one I want to record. That right there will degrade the tape and the cassette. So, if they were continuing on making stories and just going through, replaying, and then going back through again, it degraded it, and therefore it actually might have been one of the girls' voices on it. But sorry, I'm rambling with that. But as for the cat, if we're looking at it with the forged sense, like I said, with, it being the degradation of the tape and not something that they legitimately forged, that this was just something that happened and it ended up not being real. The cat could have simply noticed or smelled a mouse in the cabinet. That type of stuff happens. Rodents and everything like that, they can cause knocking in the walls or in the cabinets themselves, because mice are blind. That's why you see them always skirting the edges of the rooms and everything like that. You never see them boldly go out in the middle of the room unless they're forced to. So they're bumping around on things, against the wall, against glasses and things like that. It can create a knocking sound. Them being in the walls, their little scurrying can sound scratching. Maybe if it's further away, it could echo. It could almost sound like a knock. So, honestly, this one here, it can go both ways if you want. I can't say for certain unless they actually talked about prior experiences before the voice was heard on the recorder. So I'm just right now, I'm playing devil's advocate, and I'm showing both sides of what could possibly happen. So before I start rambling on again about the recordings, let's move on to the next, shall we?
A recent post by Reddit user Available-Time7293 has sparked fresh discussion around a classic paranormal mystery. Why do ghosts seem to walk through walls or appear to climb stairs that no longer exist? In a thought-provoking graphic shared to the platform, the user suggests that spirits may continue to follow the same paths they used when they were alive. The twist? Over the decades or even centuries, the internal layout of homes and buildings is often altered. Walls are added, staircases are removed, and spaces are reimagined for modern living. As a result, a ghost might appear to be gliding through a solid wall or floating awkwardly through mid-air, not because they're trying to defy physics, but because they're simply following the architecture that once was. This theory closely mirrors a well-known paranormal concept known as a residual haunting. Unlike intelligent hauntings, where a spirit is thought to interact with the living or respond to its surroundings, residual hauntings are more like a recording of past events. The energy of a person or moment is believed to be imprinted on a location, replaying over and over like a scene caught on loop. These hauntings are typically non-interactive and tied to specific routines. Someone walking down a hallway, opening a door, or climbing stairs that no longer exist. The Reddit post has resonated with believers and skeptics alike. Some see it as a compelling explanation for odd architectural inconsistencies in ghost sightings. Maybe that cold spot or sudden feeling of movement isn't random, one user commented. Maybe we've just renovated over the past. Others, however, are less convinced. They argue that while the idea is intriguing, it still hinges on the assumption that ghosts or their energy exist in the first place. Still, the theory raises an interesting question. If walls and rooms can change but energy impressions linger, could modern buildings be full of forgotten paths and forgotten presences intertwined beneath the surface?
Alright, for this one, it's a good theory, but I hate to be the party pooper here, but to Reddit user available time 7293, this theory is already used in the paranormal society. The ghostly theory, as this one is called, is basically another explanation for a residual haunting. There's two different types of hauntings, a residual and an intelligent. Intelligent hauntings are more of the poltergeist activity where they actually will supposedly go through and touch certain things. They'll be able to go and deal with the outside world instead of being on their ghostly plane. They can sit there and interact with walls, doors, your items in general, like throw paper across the floor, books, you get what I'm trying to say. And then there's the residual hauntings. These are basically almost like what I could consider a ghostly version of Groundhog Day. Y'all remember that movie, right? Groundhog's Day. Every time the alarm went off, he was stuck still on Groundhog's Day. So, rinse, lather, and repeat of a same day over and over. That's basically what you can consider a residual haunting. Basically, they're stuck in a loop, like a time loop, and it's just going over and over every single day, the same movements. Like if you were a nurse, you would be going up and down the halls, going into rooms, checking patients. You see what I'm getting? It's more of a mundane sort of haunting. Think of it like a burnout imprint on some sort of electronic device like your TV or computer, things like that, where you've utilized it so much that it creates a slight burnout of something that was shown on the TV. Like it could be an outline looking of a human or something like that. That, it could be more like a residual haunting. It's burned into the memory of the location as opposed to the ghost being able to go through and interact with everything. This is just, like I say, Groundhog's Day over and over and over again. And this is pretty much what he was talking about in this ghostly theory that is going on. So if I have Like if I was a servant in, say, the 1600s in England in a castle, I'm going to go about my days walking up and down the stairs, or, going through the hallways and things like that. But this, same aspect can be sent to, like a house, a mansion, things like that. Things that will actually have a different reconstruction. Castles, on the other hand, they're going to keep the preservation of the historic value. But a regular house, say something that was in the 1800s, and it was a doctor's house or a dentist's house, they're going to go up and down the stairs. They'll have maybe like a maid or something like that just to help out and everything like that. So she can go up and down the stairs, doing her cleaning. But if I purchased this particular house and I want to do a renovation on it, that don't mean that necessarily that the ghost is going to be like, oh, the stairs are gone from here, I guess I got to go up the other ones. No, this is a watermark, a footprint in time, so to say. So much like Groundhog's Day, even though the stairs are gone, they're still going to follow up the stairs because it's the same routine they went through day in, day out, night, day, all through their life, and even in the afterlife. So this right here, while the theory is intriguing, it's already been around. All right, so let's move on to the next.
Photo shared by Reddit user Legitimate Carpet 375 has reignited interest in eerie outdoor trail cam captures. According to the poster, the image was taken roughly 20 years ago in northern Indiana and shows a strange, white, semi-transparent shape in the center of the frame. The photo was recovered after a friend retrieved his old trail camera and had several shots printed, only to notice something bizarre in one of them. Some viewers have likened it to a classic paranormal manifestation, a wisp of energy caught mid-motion. Others noted its semi-transparent quality, suggesting it could be something moving rapidly under the camera's flash. One of the more grounded explanations came from a viewer who proposed it could be a bat captured mid-flight. If you look closely, you can see the wing membrane and its little hands, they wrote. As with many unexplained trail cam photos, definitive answers are hard to come by. But that hasn't stopped Reddit users and paranormal enthusiasts from offering their takes on what was captured that night in Indiana.
Now, I do love a good trail cam footage. Now, this one is interesting just simply because I don't know what quite to make of it. In one instance, it does make sense. What that one user stated was that it was a bat. But personally, while I'm making this right now, I just looked up the x-ray of a bat, and this is what I have here for that particular thing. As you can see with the bat's skeleton, this is a gray-headed Australian bat, but most, if not all, skeletal systems of bats are very similar. As you can see, its fingers, as we would call them, are also inside the actual membrane that they use to fly. So the little hands, which I'm going to show you in this next clip with this, the little hands that poke out with the quote-unquote fingers, as the user called, aren't exactly in the form of what a bat would have. So we can take a look at that one next. As y'all can see in this actual legitimate trail cam footage that the gentleman had uploaded and that Callan was talking about with this, you see that the fingers are totally different than an actual bat would have. So I'm not leaning towards bat at all with this. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I did come up with another animal that does live in Indiana that could be the possible culprit, flying extremely close to the trail cam and probably had just jumped off of a branch. I'm gonna pull that one up next. Just hold tight. And now here we have a nice rendition of the flying squirrel. Now y'all probably thinking to me, oh, there's no flying squirrels in Indiana. Yes, there is. There are what is known as southern flying squirrels. There's two types of flying squirrels here in North America. The northern flying squirrel is in Canada, whereas the southern flying squirrel is in a good deal of the United States. So they're a bit smaller and a bit more aggressive than the northern flying squirrel, so you don't see them hanging around together too much. So I guess he could be the black sheep of the family. But anyway, as y'all can see, its little hands are at the beginning of that flap of skin. So unlike a bat, its hands are not totally connected to their flying membrane, I guess you could say. But I mean, they don't really fly, it's more glide, but still it would make sense if it projected itself off of a branch. It could come through with enough speed to glide over to the next tree and go through the trail cam and possibly make a image such as this one right here that we see before us. I mean, I'm spitballing here. This is the closest thing that I could see that could possibly be what's in this trail cam without it being supernatural, you know? So I think it's probably more than likely our little friend squirrel right here. I didn't have an x-ray of it because it was really hard to find, but this is the closest thing, so you could actually see what I'm talking about with this little paws, this jutting out. So hopefully we cleared this one up. Let's go and move on to the next. I know I went a long time on a lot of these ranting, but let's move on, shall we?
One from TikTok user Tiramisu80. The clip quickly went viral, leaving viewers confused. In the now widely circulated clip, the uploader claims they were woken in the night by a doorbell camera notification, alerting them that a person had been detected outside their home, but what they saw left them terrified. While at first they thought the camera caught an intruder, it turns out the wind had got a hold of their Nutcracker blow-up ornament, creating the uncanny incident. While an explanation was eventually reached, one thing's for sure, this footage does not spread classic Christmas cheer.
Now this right here, this was a good one. I actually like this one. I was sitting there first for the longest. Please don't tell me, Callan, that these people thought this was paranormal. You see all the decorations blowing to and fro on with that wind going on and everything. So I was hoping that they weren't going to try to say this was paranormal. See, you know, this is where I really do enjoy Slapped Ham a lot of times. I mean, there are some things that just come out of their mouth that I'm like, why, Callan? Why? That just makes no sense. I know he's trying to be, I wouldn't really say unbiased, but he's trying to get people to think a little bit more maybe, or there's some of them that it's just to the point of, I'm just like, I don't know why you even said that. It's got a perfectly logical explanation to it. So I'm really glad that this one didn't come out to saying they were trying to say it was paranormal. I hope that and suggest to these people who uploaded this video before, next time you put up your Christmas decorations, make sure you tie them down real good. Otherwise, you're going to be woken up by your Ring doorbell again. All right, let's move on to the next. We needed that laugh, right?
In May 2025, a strange and unsettling mystery began to unfold in Richmond, California, where residents reported birds suddenly falling from the sky, sometimes with a loud pop and visible trauma. Witnesses described the sound as similar to a firecracker or small explosion, with birds collapsing mid-air or as they perch, seemingly exploding on impact. Security cameras have captured several incidents, prompting fears of electrocution from power lines. However, utility provider PG&E has ruled out electrical faults, confirming their infrastructure meets bird safety standards. Necropsies performed by California Fish and Wildlife revealed significant trauma to the birds, including a mourning dove and European starling. However, no evidence of electrocution or poisoning was found. Officials say the injuries are consistent with pellet guns, BB guns, or slingshots, though no suspects have been identified. Locals remain disturbed, with some doubting the pellet gun theory due to the volume and violence of the pops. Flyers have gone up in the neighbourhood asking residents to report any suspicious activity or further incidents. Authorities, including wildlife officers and the Contra Costa Sheriff's Office, are continuing their investigation. While trauma appears to be the likely cause, the true origin of Richmond's exploding birds remains unresolved, leaving both experts and residents searching for answers in this ongoing urban mystery.
To me, this one is really sad. I really dislike seeing when animals are harmed in any kind of way, or humans, but especially the animals. This one, I actually did a little bit of research on it after reviewing this little bit of footage right here. And basically, it really happened. And some of the stuff, let me just pull up again. What they're finding is that the company in which was talked about in the footage, which was PG&E, I guess that's their electrical services over in that way, they said that there was nothing wrong with the wiring, because when I was doing my research, they said it was near one particular stretch of electrical wiring for, the telephone lines and everything. Or, well, we don't really call them telephone lines anymore. Oops, I'm showing my age with that one. But the power lines and everything like that. They said it was perfectly safe, and that there was no way that the birds were having problems because of that. But it's been told, and I quote from the Bay Area Telegraph.com, from the date on this particular piece was May 14th, 2025. They quoted from, I'm reading it to you right now while I'm doing this. So they got another electrical company to come out, and it's the Southern California Edison, which is another utility, previously explained how birds can normally perch safely on power lines without harm, as long as they touch only one wire and avoid any grounded objects or multiple wires. Electricity doesn't flow through them. But in this situation, this being explained in this actual particular editorial piece, is that the wires are actually spaced too closely together, so these birds can end up accidentally touching a secondary wire, and that could explain the accidental of electrocution of these birds, and that could also make the popping sound that they heard to sound like a BB gun or a firecracker. So yeah, this right here, they really need to fix those power lines, in my opinion. Let's move on to the next, shall we?
For decades, residents of Somerville, South Carolina have reported mysterious glowing orbs hovering along the town's old railroad tracks, usually late at night. The lights are often described as soft, flickering spheres, sometimes white or bluish, and are most frequently spotted near the old Somerville-Dorchester tracks, a place now steeped in local lore. According to legend, the lights belong to a grieving woman said to be searching for her decapitated husband, whose spirit is said to wander the tracks with a lantern in hand. While many in the community have embraced this ghostly tale, others, including scientists, believe there may be a more grounded explanation. According to US Geological Survey seismologist Susan Heuve, the Somerville lights might actually be earthquake lights, a rare and poorly understood phenomenon caused by seismic activity. Earthquake lights are naturally occurring luminous phenomena that appear before, during, or after seismic events. These lights can take many forms: glowing balls, streaks of light, or pulsing flashes in the sky. They've been documented in various locations around the world, often preceding major quakes, such as the 2007 Pisco earthquake in Peru, the 2009 L'Aquila earthquake in Italy, and Japan's 2022 Fukushima quake. Huff's recent research published in Seismological Research Letters suggests that the lights in Somerville could be related to micro-tremors, tiny, often unfelt earthquakes that are still active in the region long after the devastating 1886 Charleston earthquake, one of the most powerful to ever strike the eastern US. The lights may be caused by electrical discharges from stressed underground rocks. Other theories point to ionization of gases like radon or methane interacting with the atmosphere, or piezoelectric effects, where pressure on quartz-rich rocks generates bursts of energy. If these discharges occur near metal structures like buried railroad tracks, they might appear as glowing orbs moving mysteriously through the darkness. While the lights continue to be a cultural curiosity in Somerville, Huff believes they could also be valuable scientific clues. Tracking where and when these lights appear could help geologists identify hidden fault lines and better understand seismic risks in the southeastern US, a region not typically known for large quakes, but one with a surprising tectonic history. The residents of Somerville may not give up their ghost stories anytime soon, but thanks to researchers like Huff, we may one day understand the true nature of these spectral lights. Until then, the phenomenon remains one of the few places where folklore and geology walk side by side.
Now, this one is a real interesting one. I've heard about the Somerville lights. I've actually been near that area. But I'm going to be honest with you. The stories of the headless trainmen are rampant throughout the South. So, I feel like nearly every town that has a railroad crossing down south does have this exact same ghost story. Maybe a little bit different, but all in all, it's always the railway worker trying to look for his head with a lantern. Anyway, enough about all that. We're going to go back to what the content of this footage is. Now, I did look up the information, and the Somerville lights have started. They were first spotted in the 1950s and 60s, and those did coincide with minor earthquakes in the area. So it is a very reasonable and sound theory that they have in regards to the lights being part of maybe like an early warning system for seismic activity. It's a very interesting concept. I know it kind of defeats the purpose of paranormal folklore within small southern towns, especially like Somerville, but I like to know also that, I'm going to say it like this. I am a believer of the paranormal, but I also want to make sure that there is no logical explanations before I automatically assume it being paranormal. So, seeing something like this, and actually reading some of the actual articles that have came about with this theory. I mean, some of them are like from Science News Today, the Smithsonian Magazine. So you have real legitimate scientific papers who have actually set up this study, like they went through and did an editorial on this person's study with this. So I find this very intriguing, and it's a very interesting theory that they've come across, and it's debunked a nearly 70-year folklore for Somerville, South Carolina. Though I know the folks down there will still keep their folklore alive and well. And with that one, this is the end of this episode. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Now, I know I've been asking y'all a lot with this, and I haven't received any comments, no real, communication from y'all. Now, you gotta let me know. Should I continue on with this? Do y'all want something different? Just let me know in the comments below, because there's a lot of other stuff that I can look into with the paranormal, not just the slapped hand videos, even though there's a good compilation for us to go through and review and try to debunk or possibly make sure that it seems like maybe it's a possibility of a factual encounter with the paranormal. So I mean, just let me know what y'all want. I mean, I'm up for it. I'll take a look at it and we can see what we can make of it. But just let me know if this is what y'all like. Let me know. All right. So until next time, y'all, take care.